feel like I need to be done talking about this. I've talked about it a couple times on the channel. I feel like people have wasted a lot of time talking about this whole heavy arrow, light arrow thing, and I think we just need to be done with it. So let's talk about it in this video. Real quick, I'm going to tell you about the sponsor of this video, and that is First Form. I have been really hitting the gym and really been grinding, getting that myself in shape for the elk season, and I really want to make sure that I don't gas out, and I want to make sure that I am on top of my game. So a normal workout is great. Being on the carnivore diet helps a lot. It helps me really gain muscle and get big, but also I want to maximize every aspect of that, and I want to make sure that I'm getting enough protein and getting all the right fuel that I need to actually maximize that growth in the gym and maximize my cardio health. So I've been using First Form supplements, really recommend them. They are super great. They taste good. And like I say, they just offer a wide variety. They offer natural options that don't have any kind of artificial flavors and things like that. So if you're interested in really getting gains and really getting good and getting your health in the right shape, go check out the First Form supplements. I got links in the description below to help support this channel and make yourself better, help support your health, and make sure that you live a long, healthy life. Thanks to First Form, and now back to the video. All right, guys, we're out here again. We are sweating it out. It is hot, it is humid, it is nasty. There are mosquitoes everywhere. I'm literally standing in a swamp that is my new property here. So we are just, we're doing the best we can. But what I want to talk about today is I wanted to talk about this heavy arrow, light arrow fight that's going on. And so we're gonna do a little bit of this inside in front of the computer with some stats and some graphs and stuff, but I also wanted to come outside and talk to you because it's been a little while since all the rain's been happening. I've been able to be outside, and so I wanted to enjoy this ugly but gorgeous nature that we've got here. So the heavy arrow versus the light arrow, what are my thoughts on this whole conundrum? Honestly, I think what it is I think that people, much like politics, they spend too many times at one end of the extreme or another. I think we need to focus back on what is the good balance of things, because all in all, whenever you go to a very light arrow setup or you go to a very heavy arrow setup, you are losing something. You're giving something up, right? I think you need to find balance. I think this country, I think we all need to find balance and really make sure that we are getting back together on what really matters, okay? So let's talk about light arrows a little bit. So some of the factors that make light arrows very viable for some people is going to be that they're very fast and they're very flat shooting, right? All aspects of your bow the same. You're going to be able to shoot a flatter trajectory. It's going to get to the target or the animal faster, which is also going to make you more accurate, okay? Real quick, let's talk about heavy arrows. So again, heavy arrows, what's that going to do? It's going to get to the target slower. Okay, you're going to have much more arc. There's much less of a flat shooting trajectory, but it's going to have way more momentum so you can get through a thick target or a big target or bone or something like that much better, right? Now, whenever I talk light and heavy, I'm talking like 350 grains on the light side, and I am talking like 650 on the high side. Okay, most people don't shoot that, and I don't think most people should shoot that. There's a good reason for that. Because of those, like I said, those extremes, what are you giving up? So that light arrow, what you're giving up is you're giving up a little bit of penetration through hard materials like bone. And so whenever you hit a bone, which there's a good odds that you will hit a bone, the odds of you going through that bone are going to be significantly less because those arrows don't have the same momentum. Now let's talk about the heavy arrows. What are you giving up there? Well, one, you're going to give up accuracy significantly, right? Because those arrows are going to shoot in much more of an arc, okay? They're going to get to the target slower, which gives an animal more time to move away from that target. But what are you going to gain? You're going to gain the fact that if you hit a bone, there's a good chance that that arrow still has enough momentum to push through, and even in a lot of cases, break bone and make sure that animal ends up ethically dead. But everybody talks about this and this. The last video I did was I was doing a speed test through my MATHEWS lift for 33. This is an 80-pound bow. I got 80-pound mods on there. And what I did is I tested real hunting weight arrows. I think for a majority of people, depending on the draw weight of your bow, I think a good hunting weight is anywhere from 420 to 500 grains, right? That's the happy medium. And you can basically kill just about anything in North America with those arrows. In fact, I think you can kill most things in the world with those arrows, as long as you're doing everything right. You're making sure that you're accurate, making sure you're actually a good shot. We spend way too much time on the weight of the arrow, and we forget those other more important things. I'm not an industry guy, and I'm not going to tell you, you have to shoot this heavy arrows, you have to shoot this. I have no agenda here. I just want people to be more lethal, and I want to bring some sanity back to this discussion, because I think people have absolutely lost it sometimes. So what are my recommendations? Let's say you are just starting out. Let's say you've got a shoulder injury. Let's say you are a woman that is pulling less weight, or a teenager, or young 20s or something just getting started. Let's say you're pulling around 50 to 60 pounds. I think a safe arrow weight for you would be like 400 to 420 grains. That's going to kill most things in this area, because it's going to have enough speed and enough momentum, enough kinetic energy, balanced all of those factors in order to put down just about anything that you could shoot at. Yeah, if you get up into, larger animals and you start shooting like, wild hogs at 40 yards, which I don't know why you would do, but like I say, you're going to need maybe a little bit heavier arrow, okay? If you want to be really safe, 450 is great. Now let's talk about guys that are shooting really heavy pounder bows, 70, 80 pounds, 90 pounds if you're, Cameron Haynes. What's going to be a good arrow weight for you? I think a really good arrow weight is going to be something upwards of 450 to 500 grains. The great thing about shooting a heavy bow is not necessarily that you get so much more penetration, you get so much more, flatter trajectory and all this, but that the real gain of shooting a heavier poundage bow is that you gain more leeway in what you can shoot. So if I shoot an 80-pound bow, it doesn't really matter what arrow I shoot. I could shoot anything from about 375 to 490 or 500 grains, and it's going to be deadly, okay? Now, if I shoot a 60-pound bow, the arrow selection becomes a lot narrower, right? Because you need more momentum to put that animal down to make sure that if you do hit bone or something like that, there's going to be a lethal shot. So whenever you have a lower poundage bow, you close that window quite a bit. Whereas with a higher poundage bow, you really open that window up of what you can shoot and how lethal it's going to be. So I think that's the really important takeaway here. Now you need to ask yourself, what are we shooting? What are we hunting, right? If you're hunting whitetails, honestly, if you're shooting 70 pounds, I think anything over 420 grains is going to be perfectly fine. You also got to consider where you're shooting from. Are you shooting from a tree? Are you shooting from a ground blind? Those things matter too, because as you shoot from higher up, you end up closing up the window of how many bones are in the way from that shot. So you've got to really think about those things very critically. But the great thing is there's always a happy medium, and it makes it to where you don't have to think about a lot of this. If you shoot, I'll put it this way. I've never heard anybody complain about missing animals with a 440 grain arrow, okay? I think if everybody went 440 grains, I don't think we would be missing animals. I don't think we'd be having issues unless you have bad broadheads, you have bad shot form, you have a, very bad accuracy in your shot. Those are the things that you need to take care of first. But when it comes to arrow weight, I don't think anybody, if you have a 440 grain arrow, I don't think anybody should be able to complain about arrow weight being the issue or the reason why they lost an animal. So real quick, I want to take this inside. I really like this discussion, and I want to keep this discussion going down in the comments below, guys, because I really want to talk about this. I want to hear your thoughts. Am I crazy? Am I being too middle of the road here? Do I need to just, adopt some maximum one side to the other, some extreme arrow weight, extremely light, extremely fast? Or am I talking, and am I making sense here? So comment down below, let's talk about it. But let's go inside real quick, and I want to talk about the statistics, and I want to talk about, functionally, what does this look like on the scientific side? What does this look like whenever it comes to data? All right, guys, so we are in front of the computer right now. I just wanted to look at a couple things real quick. I'll have you forgive me because there might be some noise in the mic here because I've got my 3D printer literally right here running off some grips that I printed here. And these are for the MATHEWS lift and the V3X and all this. If you want to come check them out for your bow, for your MATHEWS bow, come check them out on the site. This is apod.company.site. It's kind of a temporary name, but I think I might keep it because it's kind of cool. But basically, we got the carbon hybrid custom grip here that is for sale ready now, and we got the custom MATHEWS grip here in the colored materials here. So we've got this in orange and we've got it in the APOD, the chartreuse color here. So come check them out again, apod.company.site. Like I said, we got the carbon bow grips, and we also got the non-carbon bow grips in 0, 5 and 8 degrees. So check them out. Thanks for supporting the channel, guys, and without further ado, let's get into this. Real quick, I just wanted to talk to you about the data on this, right? So what are our gives and takes? So first of all, I want to show what you're kind of getting whenever you shoot these different arrows. So this right here is from everybody knows them and loves them or hates them. That's the Ranch Fairy. So the Ranch Fairy put out this data here. This is on N1 Outdoors. It's if you don't believe me, like say if I could scroll to the top here, you can see written by Troy Fowler. So basically what he did here is he's gone through and he's kind of reviewing some of his videos he's done where he used like the lab radar and stuff like that. This is where I'm going to get a lot of these numbers from for these arrow tests. And first of all, I want to say that whenever it comes to testing arrows and stuff like that, there's always anecdotal data. And I don't want to say that anecdotal data is bad because everybody's different, but for every time you hear somebody say, oh, I've killed the biggest elk I've ever killed with a 350 grain arrow, you'll hear somebody say, well, I lost a white-tailed deer with a 350 grain arrow. And for people that say, okay, well, I've killed everything I've shot with a 600 or 700 grain arrow, you'll have people say that I can't hit them at distance for that arrow. So again, it's all so relative as far as anecdotal experience is going to go. I'm going to take the shooter out of the equation here and just deal with the math. All right, so basically what have we got here? So we got some test results from the Ranch Fairy, and basically what it shows here is he's got these different bows set up. We're just going to look at this one down here. It's a 70-pound bow, 29 inches, and these are different arrow weights and different kinetic energy. So this is basically the kinetic energy at launch for all these different arrows, and this is the kinetic energy for all these different arrows at 60 yards. Okay, so I'll show you the arrow weights here. These are what he tested. So each one of those dots on that line basically represents one of these arrows here, which is, where it is, 388, 436, 514, 589, 616, and 670, and 718 grains. Okay, so that's each one of these dots right here. So you can see as we go to a higher weight of arrow up to these 700 plus grain arrow, you can see the gap here is smaller. What does that mean? So basically at launch, versus 60 yards, the kinetic energy loss is significantly less with the heavier arrow, right? So you can see from here to here is like 380 grain arrow or so. Like I said, you can see definitely a significant loss in energy as we go up. So 388, this was like 440 something. So as you go up, you got less kinetic energy loss, and therefore it's going to be less momentum loss at a greater distance, like 60 yards. So here's the thing though, this is dealing with one thing, that is dealing with kinetic energy and momentum, right? Because kinetic energy is a function of momentum. Definitely he can prove here with this data, and I believe his data, I know the Ranch Fairy is not trying to pull one over on us. I think he is actually going through his data and doing pretty solid with it, using lab radar, using all this stuff, lots of different tests. So yes, definitely there is less energy loss here, but that's not the whole equation here. Okay, here is what we were looking at whenever we've got a 436 grain arrow. We're using some of his numbers. So if it's leaving the bow at 248 feet per second, you can see the arc here. So basically, if you are holding the bow or your bow sight, I guess you would say technically, at a 1.5 degree up angle, right? Upwards angle. Basically what it's going to end up happening is you can see this chart here of our feet per second, and you can also see the flight path in yards, and you can see the flight time here. So another thing is you can see compare these two charts. So this graph is basically just a drop, right? If the bow angle is held at the exact same angle, arrow speed is compensated for the mass and all that stuff. If I go from a 436 grain arrow to a 650 grain arrow, so that's a medium size arrow to a somewhat heavy arrow, you can see that just that change in there, look at how much more drop we're getting. So we're getting a significantly higher amount of drop, okay, between the normal or medium sized arrow and the heavy arrow, right? And they'll also, like, say we are taking slightly longer to get to the target. So it's not huge, but let's say at 70 yards, it goes from taking 0.88 seconds to 9.94. So it's almost a tenth of a second, right? Well, a lot of people, a tenth of a second, big deal. Like, you're not going to notice that. Well, just real quick, I want to take a look at this. So these are some deer drop test results. They did some scientific testing on jumping the string with Growing Deer TV YouTube channel, and this is what they found. So at 20 yards with a 258 feet per second arrow coming out of there, you get at 40 yards, you get almost 10 inches of drop. Okay, with a 300 speed or a 300 feet per second arrow, you're getting half of that. Okay, so that's another thing that a lot of people don't think about, is the animal moving at that distance, right? You're going to have a significantly higher window of missing whenever you're using a heavy, slow arrow at that distance versus a little bit faster arrow. And I'm not saying a light, super fast arrow, right? This is not all about which is better. This is all about what are you giving up. Okay, and what are you giving up with a heavy arrow? You were giving up accuracy at long range. Even at 40 yards, you can give up 5 inches of accuracy as far as deer movement or animal in general movement goes, right? You also giving up that angle. You're not hitting at an ideal angle, because obviously a flat trajectory is going to be an ideal angle. So something else to think about. I'm not saying one's better. I'm not trying to disprove anything. I'm just trying to show that there's a lot that we're not talking about here. And what are you giving up? Ranch Fairy said this in his own video, is there are not solutions, there's only trade-offs. Real quick, I know a lot of people want to talk about the string noise. You go with a heavier arrow, you're going to have less noise in the bow. I always laugh at this a little bit, because in any range, and they did this again in this video here, go check it out, it's a really great video, but like I say, at pretty much any range that you're going to be able to hit an animal and kill it, unless you're at like 90 yards or something, which I would never take a shot on an animal at 90 yards. The amount of noise, the difference in the amount of noise from using a heavy arrow to using a light arrow is not going to be so significant, right? It's not like it's 10 decibels quieter or 20 decibels quieter. No, it's like 1 or 2 decibels quieter, okay? Even on today's very quiet compound bows, like I've got the MATHEWS Lift, extremely quiet, consistently tested as one of the quietest bows out there. Same thing with the Phase 4. Still, just from doing recordings with my camera and shooting it I did this a couple years back, where I set my camera up and I shot the arrows at a couple of different weights and tested the volume levels. It was literally like at 30 yards, I think it was like a decibel difference between a 580 grain arrow and I think I had a 420 grain arrow shooting one of my old Victory Vaps. So it's like 1 or 2 decibels difference at 30 yards. Any animal's not going to notice the difference. They're going to see it. No, both of them are going to make the animal jump. Okay, that's the point. Both of them are going to make the animal jump. So, but on the light side of things, that is, like I said, this graph right here is very important too, because again, what are you giving up on the light arrow side? You are giving up that bone crunching kinetic energy. So again, it's like, everybody's always wanting to go all the way to the light side, or they're wanting to go all the way to the heavy side. It's like, just stop, guys. Like, if you can get the best of both worlds and get that happy medium, and you can worry more about building quality components and having a quality skill, having good shots. That's way more important than any of this. And to prove my point better, he also does on this. I really like the Ranch Fairy because I think he's got his heart in the right place and he's doing a lot of good things. I don't think he considers every little thing about it, you know. Maybe he has, and if so, I'll give him credits because look at this. This guy's done a lot of tests on this stuff. Honestly, more than I have too. But here's a really good thought right here is he's talking about the sharpness of the blade. So if you got a really sharp broadhead that has less blades on it, it's going to take way less energy to get that into and through the animal. So again, if you're shooting, you're putting 70 foot-pounds of energy into that, and it only requires 10 foot-pounds to break through the hide and get into that vital space in the animal, you're going to have a surplus of energy going through there. So it's going to mean that it's going to not only get into the animal, but it's going to much more likely pass through. We're worrying so much about how much weight we're putting into our arrow, and we're worrying too little about stuff that matters, like how sharp is your broadhead, what kind of broadhead are you using. I think that stuff is a little bit more important than the overall weight of the arrow. And I think, again, like Dan has, again, I know I don't like using anecdotal data, but for instance, like Dan from Elk Shape, he used 460 or 440 grains or something like that from mid 400s arrow with a 3-blade broadhead, put it through an elk shoulder. So again, like, let's stop going to extremes. My whole thesis of this whole thing, I wanted to kind of back it up with a little bit of data and a little bit of the thought process. I'm not an engineer, I'm not all this stuff. I'm just looking at the data and kind of like trying to get people to remember things that they're forgetting or that they're leaving out of those equations. And again, the whole thing is, let's bring it back to a happy medium, and again, find something that works for you. If it works for you, hey, great. If a 750 grain arrow is working for you every time you use it for what you're hunting, great, right? I really highly doubt that most people are going to be shooting a 750 grain arrow past 40 yards, right? And the same thing goes for, honestly, like a 350 grain arrow. You know, like you can penetrate almost anything with a 350 grain arrow at 10 yards, okay? Especially with the 70-pound bow. But how much energy are you putting into it? And at a distance, how much energy are you losing? And on that, how accurate are you? So accuracy is going to be one of your number one things you got to worry about. And then, you know, how much energy does it take to get into the animal? Okay. So again, I just want to bring this, I'm talking this out as I go. So this is kind of a little bit more disjointed than I wanted it to be, but I really just wanted to bring up the topic, and I wanted to say, guys, let's stop going to these massive extremes one way or the other, and let's agree to disagree in some cases. But also, I'll just say, most people, I think we can agree that the medium fits really well. All right, so again, check out the sponsor of the channel, Crafted Archery. I have some Crafted Archery gear coming. I got some new broadheads, and I've got some new arrows coming. I'm going to be building those hopefully pretty soon whenever they get here from Australia, from Aussie, from Dan Craft over Crafted Archery. Then, like I say, I've got some easy veins that I'm going to put on there, building up the whole setup. Then also, like I say, we're going to be doing some more workouts and stuff with the First Form supplements. So thanks to Crafted Archery, thanks to Easy Veins, and thanks to First Form for supporting our channel and for supporting the outdoors and the hunting industry and this thing that we love so much. So thanks for watching, guys, and as always, keep defying the odds.